Hi.
I thought you were gonna start it doing an impression too, since we were
Oh,
just
I,
doing
I
them.
ended the hello in an impression.
What was your impression you just did?
I don't really
The
know. A
cat?
cat. Oh my gosh, can you play it now?
I don't have it pulled up
Well,
now.
then you better pull it up.
We should we should let the listeners know already off the bat. We've
Yeah.
had a time. We were trying to figure out our microphones. We were having like a whole echo
They were echoing.
thing
It
happen.
kept like replaying Logan's voice like a billion times into space. It was real messed up.
It
But
was
it's
real
okay.
crazy. But then
Oh no.
I started playing cat meows. Should it be little kitten meows?
I do like the crazy ones you were playing earlier. They need to hear
Oh
those.
jeez,
Because
I have
then
to
I
go
can
to
do
YouTube
I
for
can do
that.
my impression with them.
Oh my god. This has nothing to do with what we're gonna talk about today, but that's fine.
But we
Oh,
can
it's still
make
pulled
it.
up. Are you ready?
Yay! Okay. This is Logan's video.
This is you and me
It's
fighting, by the way.
amazing. But yes, that's the sounds. And here's my impression. Tell me if it's not spot on. Here I go. Pretty good.
You're just like what's that cat? The olive cat, the orange one from the movie. Garfield? No.
What are you
No.
talking about? What
Olive.
movie?
It's like olive cat. Oliver. Oliver the cat?
Oh, Oliver and Company?
Oliver and Company,
I
yeah.
was like, Olive, what the heck are you talking about?
That's just like you.
It's
That's
just like
exactly
you.
like you.
But yeah, welcome to the Mystery Files, guys. Welcome to the summer tapes.
The summer tapes.
We're so happy to have you. Sorry we started off a little crazy. We're just in a silly, goofy mood today. We can't help it.
We are, because we are delighted to be, I think it's a good way to open it.
Yeah.
We are delighted to be in the top 10 for best podcasts of the Pittsburgh
City
Paper.
Paper. Best of Pittsburgh.
I was just gonna say best of Pittsburgh, but I was trying to like say what magazine it was, so it came out like
You were trying to find the words. No, but it's the Pittsburgh City Paper, Best of Pittsburgh. We're in the finalist, and we're so honored. We're so excited. Thank you for all who nominated. And
Yes.
yeah, we're just really excited to be considered.
And if you are local to Pittsburgh, right? You got to be like
Yeah.
a local.
I believe so. I wasn't sure because I know at least for the nominations you had to be local, but it didn't specify for
Okay.
voting. So maybe try to vote if you
Try
can.
it.
Cool, but
If you go to, I believe it's pghcitypaper.com, there'll be best of Pittsburgh 2022,
yeah.
and you can vote for us under best podcast, or
Yeah.
you can follow us on the Mystery Files _ Instagram.
Yes, follow our Insta. Also, I just updated our Redbubble, so if any of you people out there got any babies, we have baby merch now because my sister's gonna have a baby any day now.
That is wild to think there's gonna be a cartoon picture of my face on your twin sister's baby.
Yeah.
This
Can
is
you
wild.
imagine our youngest viewer yet? We're gonna have to change those demographics below the age of 1.
Going stop on what?
Oh, what?
What? Wait, I'll show the baby the Book of Miracles case, like the baby that had like that's 3 heads.
No.
I'm like, look,
That
this is
baby's
your
gonna
brother.
grow up real scared. This is your brother.
Tiffany's baby's like, hey,
I'm afraid. It starts talking somehow.
But yes, this is episode 6.
Holy smokes!
6 of
Look
the
at us
Summer
go.
Tape, season 3, baby.
We're driving right along. Go for us.
We are chugging right along.
Chug-a-luggin'.
Last week, we had our first ever guest appearance from Mr. Benjamin Volk, and it was amazing.
10 out of 10. He did so good, and I was so impressed. I was like, what
I
the heck?
know.
A whole natural on the podcast?
Yeah, that episode was like received like really well. I already told you about this after we were done wrapping that episode. Completely blacked out. Don't I remember,
Yeah.
but I was just like so tired. I was like in a rush. You remember?
Yeah, I was concerned for your health when we started. For people who don't know, Logan had a time getting here last week because of all the buses, the whole situation. Logan was like sweating bullets.
Oh, when I
was
was
sitting here, I thought you were gonna pass out.
The entire Book of Miracles section, I was like.
And then I could see the relief when Benjamin finally started his case. I saw the sweat dripping down your face like water. I was like, are you going to be good? And then you were fine. You just needed some time to breathe.
It's because I'm a professional. I make sure to get...
They wouldn't hear that you were struggling behind the scenes. You sounded 10 out of 10. Your case was 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That's why I asked you afterwards. I was like, did anything I say made sense? Because I had my script ready, but I was like, am I really here right now. I think I might have had a light heat stroke and I just don't realize.
Oh, you might have. You really might. I was concerned. Also, we had to turn the AC off because it's really loud in the background. So,
Yeah.
like, you had nothing helping you. And of course, you were the first one to go. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
They're not doing
I think I
good.
like finished my water too, and like the one thing is that we just always like when we start the episode, we go right to the end. We do not take a break.
Yeah. Unless something bad goes
Yeah.
down, you know?
But then also like a lot of people take breaks in podcasts so they can have sponsorship slots, which we
Yeah.
only have one.
Do we not put it in the middle also, or am I crazy?
I put it in the middle sometimes,
Okay,
depending on
that's
the
what I was
episode
wondering. Yeah.
and what errors we might have in the episode. So if you've ever heard an ad like in the middle of an episode and you're like, that's weird, it's usually in the beginning, probably because we had a technical difficulty and I just cut it that way.
Or there was a really loud siren on my street, which is also possible. Or a really loud motorcyclist because they're crazy.
There was a loud siren last episode and I edited it out.
Straight out. Aha, you never heard it.
I get so scared after editing certain episodes that I'm like, oh no, what if I didn't get rid of it? It's like that paranoia of like I know it's gone and I've listened back to it.
Well, I try not to delete them off the computer or my hard drive until like they've been posted, because then I'm like certain.
Yeah. I think it was the one episode a couple weeks ago.
It was Pirates.
Pirates, we were like scared because I didn't have the full copy of it, and you were about to delete it off your computer, and I was like, oh, I only have the first 25 minutes for some reason.
That was stressful because then I could only find one that was also that short, and I'm like, what is this from? But it was just a wrongly exported one that only exported part of the thing.
Knock on wood.
Knock on all the woods.
Let's hope we never have another incident like that, because I think we only had one lost episode, I think.
What episode was that? I genuinely don't remember.
I have no clue.
Guess we'll have to do it again if we remember.
Well, we might be like doing it today. Who knows? Probably not.
Stop
Probably
it.
not.
Okay,
Probably not.
okay.
It's just today's case is something we have talked about before. It's been brought up before.
Okay.
And I think we watched it together too. It's one of the videos we watched together when we were conceptualizing this show. So I think you'll have some hints. You have a little bit of an idea.
Maybe I know.
Do you want to give me a little drum roll? I guess we're just going right into it.
Let's be crazy.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. This week on the Summer Tapes, we'll be discussing the case of the disappearance of D.B. Cooper.
Yes!
Da,
we
da, da, da.
did briefly talk about this. This was one of the
Under
Christmas
the Tree?
Mysteries. Yeah, from Benjamin.
I knew it was.
Yes.
I knew in my gut that it was something that was talked about in Under the Tree.
Yes.
For like a
Ooh.
second.
Well, I've been wanting to know more about this because we got like a little like rundown. So if you want to see a shortened version.
Yeah, and maybe I talked about it Under the Tree, but I am almost 110% positive we watched the BuzzFeed Unsolved episode about this.
Oh, we definitely did.
Because we binged it.
We binged all of that, so we definitely have seen it before. Okay. Ooh, well, a lot of these disappearance cases, I honestly forget all the details after they're presented to me.
I feel like my retention with knowing mysteries we discuss does a lot better when we actually do the episode than what I actually watch.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Like, I really internalize it in my brain when we do it as an episode.
I mean, depending how far away it was. Like, there's some cases that I remember, like, the idea of and kind of forget.
The only thing I remember about the New Jersey Devil back when we were a radio show is the little pony picture. Do you remember I showed you, like, a pony, like, a picture of a pony with wings?
That's vaguely coming back to me. Was that really when we were a radio show?
Yeah, that was from the radio show days.
We should cover it again.
We should, like a revision. Do you want to cover it since I covered it last time?
Maybe.
Surprise me with it.
Maybe not next week, but maybe
soon.
Because I already have next week's planned, but
oh, okay.
I have a list now.
But yeah, just to preface already, there is no possible way we are going to cover all of this D.B. Cooper case because it is chunky.
She's thick.
Like so many different ins and outs, suspects, theories, evidence, ongoing clues that have been coming out as early as like even last year.
Okay. Last year.
Yeah, there's
Holy
a lot
smokes.
of stuff.
Okay.
So what we're giving to our listeners will just be the tip of like the iceberg kind of summary of like what's going on. Because There is no way we could even do it, and if we did, it'd be like a 3-hour episode.
That's half the fun.
Which was why I was kind of like, maybe we shouldn't, but I was like, no, this is fun.
I'm actually excited because I feel like ever since last week I've been really interested in more disappearance cases. Ever since Benjamin gave like a
That's what
little one,
inspired me,
I'm
yeah.
like, this is gonna be so cool, especially like a sort
Yeah.
of known case. Like it's gonna get deep. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Lay
And
it
not
out.
to not to be like, oh, I'm usually our disappearance guy, but usually I'm the one who comes with the disappearing cases.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Mhm.
hop right into it.
Hop right in, homie.
I'm gonna get a little more serious listening with it and sound a little more
Okay.
creepy. Who knows?
Ooh.
All right, so on Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971, a man carrying a black suitcase approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines at the Portland International Airport. He purchased his airline ticket as Dan Cooper and used only cash to purchase a one-way ticket on Flight 305, um, a 30-minute trip north to Seattle Tacoma International Airport. Cooper
Hmm.
boarded the aircraft, a Boeing 727-100, carrying with him a briefcase and a brown paper bag. He took seat 18E on the last row and ordered a drink, a bourbon and soda. Eyewitnesses described Cooper as being a middle-aged man, approximately in his about mid-40s, wearing black or brown business suit with a black raincoat and with a thin black tie and white shirt.
Okay, so we got a whole visual of this guy.
Yeah, so, but already, like, off the bat, kind of like, I don't know. Like, I know there's a lot of businessmen on an
Mhm.
airplane, but I already get, like, weird guy vibes
Yeah,
from that.
but also I feel like they probably had to have seen this person from like footage if they looked back. Because for me, at least
Mm-hmm.
specifically me, if someone were to be like, "Oh, do you remember this guy on this plane?" I'd be like, Psh, "How
Mm-hmm.
are they describing him in such detail?" Unless they
Yeah.
like had visuals on cameras or something.
That's true. But do you also think maybe they didn't? Because this was in the 1970s, and as we've talked about before,
Oh,
the 70s was like the highest rates of
crime and all
crime,
sorts of stuff.
and that's how like we got a lot of like policies and different laws put in place.
Mhm.
So maybe there wasn't enough
Maybe people
security
had to remember
cameras.
because they had to rely on that. So okay.
So Flight 305, Mr. 305, sorry.
You played too much.
um, was approximately one-third full. It departed from Portland on schedule at 2:50 p.m. PST. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to Florence Schaffner, the flight attendant situated directly behind him in a jump seat. Schaffner, assuming the note contained a lonely businessman's phone number, dropped it and unopened it into her purse. That is like,
Weird.
I mean, that's what I would do. Like, if some
Mhm.
random, I would assume the same thing. Some random businessman's hitting on me and it's just like his
Yeah.
phone
It's like
number.
another guy with a phone number. Great. Throws it in her
I'm like,
purse.
she's kind of a queen for that.
Yeah, unless they had something pre-planned that like he had to hand her a note to get something done. That seems a
Mm-hmm.
little either it was just some random guy or like if she was hiding something and going to read it later in
Well,
private.
yeah, well, that's definitely an idea. Like with it, like she could have like even if it was like a flirting thing, like she is
Mhm.
working, so it's
Yeah.
like that just makes it awkward for everyone involved.
Mhm.
But this is where it gets juicy, and
Ooh.
so Cooper leaned towards her and whispered, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb."
uh
Right?
uh
The
on a
note
plane?
was printed in neat all capital letters with a felt tip pen. Its exact wording is unknown as Cooper later reclaimed it from her, but
Oh.
Schnaffner recalled that it mentioned the bomb and directed her to sit in the seat beside Cooper.
Oh, I'd be so scared.
So, right? So the note basically said, like, already, like, basically just this idea of, like, sit next to me, like, on this plane, and had mentioning of the bomb.
Okay.
One thing I kind of wanted to note too is that it's very interesting he wrote it in all capital letters because that's kind of smart on his end. Because if he did
Mhm.
write it with his own handwriting,
Mhm.
at least I feel like it would be harder to track penmanship in all capital letters
Yeah.
than in like if you were just doing like regular grammatically
Yeah, because you're
correct.
not often going to see someone else's handwriting in all caps. Like
Mm-mm.
to be able to track it unless like
Yeah.
they recognized one letter and had him come in and write all these
Especially if it
caps.
was print.
Yeah.
Instead of, like,
Cursive.
cursive. I almost said
What's
signature.
Unless it was signature. I mean, maybe people call it that still.
Yeah, so, Schnaffner, did as he requested, then quietly asked to see the bomb. Cooper opened his briefcase long enough for her to glimpse in, and she saw 8 red cylinders in 2 rows of 4, assumed to be dynamite.
Ooh.
So right off the bat, like, she saw that, and there was a wire attached to the cylinders, and a large cylindrical battery was in the briefcase as well. This thing just sounds like...
That sounds horrifying. So my question is, I might be dumb for asking this, but like, was there really not much security then? Like, did they honestly just like amp up security like after like 9/11 and that kind of stuff, or
I feel like it's definitely possible that,
that's
like, there
what
wasn't
amped it?
as much, like, safety measures put in place, but I believe there's also theories. Because I was gonna say this bomb sounds very out of, like, a movie.
Like kind of fake or
Exactly. So there's, like, a possibility. There's some theories that think the bomb never existed. Like, it's not a real bomb. It was made to look like a bomb, but he was never going to, like, implode on the plane.
Well, so I guess that begs the question, then maybe they really didn't have much security, like enough that like they checked the person, maybe not the stuff they had.
Yeah.
Because
But
I feel like
now they do, because, like, if
now
you
they
go
would.
through security, it's like X-ray scans.
Yeah,
They
anything
would
that's
see,
shaped
like,
like that, like maybe they just didn't check bags thoroughly enough then, or
yeah.
I don't
But if
know.
they had metal, I feel like if they had metal detectors back then, like, they would have had to keep up with it, or at least like known
That's
something.
something I want to look up after, just out of my own curiosity. I'm just like, was there really no security? Like, I know
Yeah.
now there definitely is, but that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's like one of the things too, is like some people think he got it through so easily that because it wasn't real.
Okay.
But you know, you don't know that. Like when you're on the plane, you're not also like
if someone says they have it,
if
you're not going to question it. You're like, okay.
If someone's threatening it and you're the flight attendant on there and you're responsible for like all those lives too, you're not going to like
you're not going to question if they have it. They have it.
You're not going to make him mad.
Yeah.
You're not going to make him mad. So upon closing the briefcase, he stated his demands to Schnaffner, who wrote it down and carried it to the cockpit, where it was then transmitted by Captain Scott to the Northwest Flight Operations in Minnesota. So this is everything he was requesting.
Okay.
To the captain to have like in the plane. He was like, I want all of this stuff. Give this to me. So the note read in part, he requests $200,000 in a knapsack. I almost said a knapsack.
A snapnack.
200 grand in a knapsack by 5 p.m. He wants 2 front parachutes and 2 back parachutes. He wants the money in negotiable American currency. So it's gotta be cold hard cash.
He expects them to have this on the plane right now, or is he making them land to get this money?
He's making them land to get some, and then they have to take off again. We're gonna get to that.
But aren't they gonna be like sketched out?
We're
like
about to
other
find
people?
out.
Okay.
Yeah, can you imagine like when they were like in a plane next to them, they have to like throw the money back?
Yeah, it's like what the heck?
And like it's just like because airplane windows are strong, so if you just hit it at the window, it's just gonna like fall.
Wait, Logan, this is so random. Did you see that TikTok? This girl accidentally broke her window on a plane.
No, that's crazy.
She leaned on her window and like I guess there's like different layers to like an airplane window if you've ever been on one, if you've seen it. But she cracked it and she told like the flight attendant person, and she's like, it's okay because there's other layers. But like the flight attendant went to like the cockpit and told the pilot and stuff. Because I guess it could be bad because if the air pressure gets messed up in the cabin.
Because if the air pockets get in it, it could like.
Yeah, but it was fine. I'm just like,
gosh.
That's.
Did she get it on video of her breaking it, or was it like the
I'll
aftermath?
show you it. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
You can keep going and I'll show you the picture.
Okay.
But it's creepy as heck.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so he wanted it in negotiable American currency, so he wanted it in like paper cash, I'm pretty sure.
What's he with all that? I guess he won't get tracked.
But I also think it's funny because like he says negotiable American currency. Like what if they were like petty and they like wanted it like they handed him an all nickel.
Yeah, here's all of your nickels. That would be ridiculous.
I don't believe my script says this, but when I was doing research on this episode, I believe he also asked for it to be in forms of 20s, like $20
Oh.
bills, which is very smart because if you're
Yeah.
getting that much cash out, if you go to a bank and you're wanted and you just
Mhm.
have like a $100 bill, like a bunch of $100 bills,
Yeah, you're
it's
gonna
gonna
look
be like,
weird. But also, isn't it gonna look sketchy for the people getting all this money out, or is he making like everyone on the plane get out different sums so it doesn't look weird?
I believe he's getting it from like the airline. He's like
Oh,
making the
okay.
airline do it.
I'm understanding. I was like, that's a lot for casual people to be getting out.
So, Cooper would soon begin making further demands, with Mucklow taking over for Schaffner as liaison between Cooper and the cockpit.
Mm.
Cooper demanded that fuel trucks were to meet the plane when they landed in Seattle and that everyone was to remain in their seats while Mucklow brought the money onto the plane. Cooper
Oh.
stated he would let the passengers go once the money was on board and that the last item to be brought aboard would be the parachutes.
Oh gosh.
So basically, that's where like the whole like stopping thing happens. So once
Yeah.
they land, he's like, if he brings this money back on,
Mhm.
everyone can get off.
Yeah.
But if any funny business happens, like I will tick this off
Mhm.
already.
That also, I now that I'm thinking about it, the statement I made earlier about like I wouldn't recognize someone. I guess now it makes sense knowing that people on the plane actively know what's happening, or at least like the
hmm
stewardess
Oh, at
does.
this point, they gotta know. I believe that like
Yeah.
when I was doing other research on this, it's not in my script, but I just like to
Yeah.
like know like other sources.
Yeah.
There's people who are like on the plane and like they've done interviews like recalling it and
Yeah.
stuff.
Like
Um,
I guess if you saw someone that was like actively doing something bad and you were
yeah,
with them long enough, you'd definitely be able to remember. I thought it was like something he did something bad after he left the plane. So
yeah.
this makes a lot more sense to my brain.
And everyone explained it like super like different. Like there's people because people react different to everything. There are people
Yeah.
who are like horrified. There are people who just shut down completely, and then there are some people who are just like super chill, like
Yeah.
laid back.
My goodness. They
I
coped with it different.
hmm I have a lot of anxiety, but I just feel like in that moment I would like disassociate and I
Oh
would like
yeah.
try to. I would be very very calm, but for
Mhm.
all the wrong
I just feel
reasons.
like planes are stressful enough. If there's one extra thing, I'm like, well, I guess I'm not here anymore.
hmm
I'm disassociating.
Did you find this picture?
No, I'm still looking. I'm just casually glancing down at my
You're,
likes.
I'm like talking through this case, and you're like, "Wow, that's crazy." Uh huh. And you
No, I
just
care. I
look.
care. You just have to see how crazy it is. We'll post it on our story when we post this episode. We'll put it on our
Put
Instagram
it.
story,
Okay.
just so you guys can see how crazy it is. Holy smokes! But yeah, you
My
keep
goodness.
checking.
Okay. So, the captain, William A. Scott, contacted the Seattle Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control, which informed local and federal authorities. The 35 other passengers were told that their arrival in Seattle would be delayed because of a minor mechanical difficulty. Oh, so
Mm.
they didn't
So they
know.
didn't
They
know.
had no idea at
I'd be
all.
more scared about mechanical difficulty.
Um, Northwest Orient's president, Donald Nyrope, authorized payment of the ransom and ordered all employees to cooperate fully with the hijackers' demands. So
Mm.
it was like he went through the airline to get the money, so it's coming right from the president of the corporation.
Oh gosh. So like they know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly. So like everyone there knows, but not everyone who was on the plane knew immediately.
I'd be stressed. When I
Mm-hmm.
found out after, I'd be like, telling me I could have died?
Yeah.
I could have
Yeah.
died?
I'd be like kind of mad.
I would be too.
That's like when a parent doesn't tell you like they've had like a really like they had to go to the hospital or something. They're like, "Well, I didn't want to bother you." Like, you don't think
Bother
I'd want to
me.
know
I
that?
want to know what happened. My gosh.
um so yeah, so the aircraft circled Puget Sound for approximately 2 hours to allow Seattle police and the Federal Bureau Investigation sufficient time to assemble Cooper's parachutes and ransom money and to mobilize emergency personnel. So it
Hmm.
sounds like the FBI was not trying to mess with him because of this
Yeah.
bomb. They were not trying to, you know, be like, okay, like I'm bringing on the money, and then bringing like a
Yeah.
bunch of police officers on, like you're under arrest, because like,
They don't want to instigate
yeah,
anything because all these people are at risk. Also, they don't know what risk he
yeah,
could be whenever he gets
because you
free.
also got to think like even if those people were willing to risk their lives, which they weren't,
Yeah.
there's also all of the air flight staff you have to think about too.
Yeah.
That's so many people's lives too. Like
Mhm.
you don't.
Or like
mess with
say
that.
the pilot was injured or
Mm-hmm.
something. You could like emergency land in like a city or something. You can't play with that, you know?
Yeah. And this is the other reason I wanted to like pick this case too, because like from what I believe in this, no one got harmed
Yeah.
in this. Like, I mean, other than emotional
Emotional, yeah.
turmoil,
Mhm.
which is very similar to the great train robbery case where
Yeah.
like no one got hurt, they got all this like money out. I think cases
Mhm.
like that are just so interesting.
It's just like the thought process behind it. It's like those people are like going to be emotionally
Yeah.
traumatized from something like that. And it's just like how does stuff like that even happen?
Yeah, it's quite wild and it gets even wilder.
Ooh.
So during the flight from Portland to Seattle, Cooper demanded that flight attendant Tina Mucklow remain by his side at all times. She was the
Mhm.
liaison between them. Mucklow recalled that Cooper appeared familiar with the local terrain. At one point, he remarked, "Looks like Tacoma down there," as the aircraft flew above it. He
Ooh.
also correctly mentioned that the McCord Air Force Base was only a 21-minute drive at that time from the Seattle Tacoma airport.
Mm.
Mucklow would later tell reporters he was not nervous. He seemed rather nice, and he was not cruel nor nasty. While the plane held a holding pattern over Seattle, Mucklow and Cooper made small talk.
Oh.
She asked Cooper why he picked Northwest Airlines to hijack, and he responded, "It's not because I have a grudge against your airlines, it's just because I have a grudge."
Against who?
Ex- who
Mhm.
exactly? Um, and just like go back, like when he's talking about like Tacoma, and everything in like Washington State,
Mhm.
and obviously the plane was from Portland to Seattle.
Yeah.
A lot of people think he was like a resident of like Washington State. A lot of
Okay.
people are like, this guy was from here. You just don't know information like that about
Mhm.
Washington
Unless
or
like
the
he
surrounding area.
really researched it or something, but like that's
Hmm.
too
But even
specific.
then, like
You'd
if
have to know the ins and outs of streets.
I was hijacking a plane, I would not like be trying to know everything about everywhere we were going over. I
Yeah.
mean, unless he was planning it for like multiple years.
Yeah, it's a big grudge though.
Mm.
But I wanted to bring up one thing you were talking about, like the woman he was sitting next to, like making small talk.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of I can't remember this guy's name, but he does like series on YouTube, like different series about like I spent a day with da da da.
Mm-hmm.
And he just came out with one talking about he spent a day with criminologists.
Oh
So these
wow,
people go and talk to like serial killers.
that's
And
wild.
it reminded me of her, the way she was speaking to him, because I guess a lot of like criminologists speak to serial killers like they try to make small talk and like make
Mm-hmm.
jokes and like so they can get more information
Yeah,
and they're trying to befriend the person.
I
And I'm
mean
like,
that's what she's kind of doing
yeah.
there. I think like when you're in a situation like this, you
Mhm.
both know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Don't play like obviously they said they're doing small talk, but like don't act like they aren't doing what they're doing.
Yeah, like she's instead of being afraid or like outwardly afraid, she is
Hmm.
choosing to do this because she's know it's safer and
Yeah,
also she's going to get more
yeah,
information to keep her safe in the long run. I'm like, that's
and
crazy.
obviously like I don't want to speak for her because like I don't know if like she felt safe at all because like you would
Oh,
in
you
that
wouldn't.
situation, but she did say that he had like he was like nice to her and he
Mhm.
wasn't cruel, like he had like a presence to him that was very
Yeah.
like I don't feel threatened even though she was threatening everyone, which like goes back to
Yeah.
the theory people have that possibly the bomb just wasn't real at all,
Mhm.
which is like a whole other like
Yeah.
thing.
He was probably just banking on the fear, creating fear by doing
Mm.
this crazy thing and I
Hmm.
don't know. Kudos to her. I think that's amazing that she chose that route to keep her and her everyone else
Yeah,
safe-ish on the plane. But yeah.
absolutely. So then DB Cooper asked her where she was from, and she told him she was originally from Pennsylvania, but
Oh,
was living in Minneapolis at the time, to which he responded that Minnesota was a very nice country.
country.
Interesting.
What?
Very interesting thing to say.
Mhm.
Um, when
Country.
she asked him where he was from, he became upset and stated he wouldn't answer that, which makes it sound like he
Oh.
was from Washington, possibly.
Yeah.
When Cooper asked her if she was a smoker, she indicated that she had quit. He nevertheless offered her a cigarette, which she
Uh
accepted.
stop. Oh, this is the time when they could smoke on planes, which what?
Wild. Oh my god.
How?
Imagine in like a post-COVID world trying to smoke on a plane.
No, I would.
I mean, I've been on a plane, but
I can't breathe when there's my throat closes around cigarette smoke.
me too. Me
See?
too.
On
It's
a plane?
Can you imagine? What if I was on this plane and like he pulls out a cigarette? I'm like, hey, can you put that out?
Can you put that out? You would just think he's a casual person. You try to start beef.
I probably would
He
have.
slowly opens his bag and reveals. And you're like, never mind.
He just like opens it and I'm like, oh,
LOL. You said
cool.
LOL, a joke.
I was like, I was just kidding.
I was just kidding. Oh my god.
I was like, oh my god, you're my bestie. Oh my god, love the tie.
Bestie, I'm allergic. Put it out. Too much.
All right. So FBI records also indicate that Cooper briefly spoke to an unidentified passenger while the plane maintained its holding pattern over Seattle. Passenger George Labizaneri, ooh, that is a long name.
You did good.
Was interviewed by FBI agents later that night and stated he visited the restroom directly behind Cooper on several occasions.
Oh.
Following one visit, he found his path blocked by Mucklow and a passenger in a cowboy hat who was hassling Mucklow about the alleged mechanical issue with the aircraft.
Okay.
So it sounds like some guy that's like, I need to get off this plane already.
I'd be like, this is Final Destination, get me off. I'd be freaking out already. I'd be like, well, my time to die, I guess.
Well, they don't know.
Yeah, so like I'd be panicking more because I thought we were gonna die from a malfunction.
Oh, I guess like that would like put more anxiety in people being like a mechanical issue, like what's wrong with the engine?
Like they're stressed for a whole different reason. I feel like that would make sense of him like hassling him because
that
he's
makes
scared.
more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's so many layers to this. It's so interesting.
An onion.
Where was I? Okay. So Labanosari, I don't think I'm saying it right this time from what I just said, but whatever. Claimed he would eventually talk the cowboy into returning to his seat.
Oh no.
Mucklow would tell the FBI a milder version of this story, indicating that a passenger came back to her looking for a sports magazine because he was bored. Mm-hmm. She stated that they went to an area directly behind Cooper where they looked for magazines until he finally took a copy of the New Yorker and returned to his seat. When she returned to Cooper, he told her, if that is a sky marshal, I don't want any more of that. Oh. Despite briefly interacting with Cooper, the cowboy never made a statement to law enforcement and has never been identified.
Oh,
which is just so weird. Wild that you can't identify who this cowboy man was. Mm-hmm. Like, do you not have record of everyone on that plane and call him up? Like,
so
do you own a cowboy hat?
Maybe he was secretly part of like the Sky Marshal. Maybe they had the info, and they didn't want to give it away that he was. But that's really weird. They wouldn't get like quotes from all the people on that plane. Doesn't sit right.
So FBI agents assembled the ransom money finally from several Seattle area banks, up to 10,000 unmarked $20 bills. Most with serial numbers beginning with the letter L, indicating an issuance by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and made a microfilm photograph of each of them. Cooper rejected the military-issued parachutes that were offered by McCord AFB personnel. So the military offered him parachutes, and he was like, I'm not using a military parachute, and demanded 4 civilian parachutes with manually operated ripcords. Seattle police obtained them from a local skydiving school.
Wait, did he think they were trying to kill him or track him with a military one? What was the situation with
Possibly. They might have thought that. There's also a lot of theories that go into this. Basically saying that, like, what was it? Kind of that, like, he probably doesn't know how to use a parachute very well.
Oh, like the military ones are probably more specific?
Yeah. Once we get into, like, a couple of the suspects, there's people who thought, like, he could have been, like, a military personnel, but people were like, there's no way if he was asking for civilian parachutes.
Yeah.
Which leads to other theories that people don't think he survived the jump, which, spoiler alert, he gets jumped away.
But, what was I gonna say? Maybe he also didn't choose a military one because he would have stuck out like a big ol', is it a red thumb? Is that what it is? Because I feel like if you saw someone landing
Yeah.
with a military parachute, you'd be like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Well, I can imagine. I feel like I know parachutes are big, but I can imagine a military parachute is like huge. If he lands in a tree somewhere, or like just somewhere specific, the police are going to try to find this guy. They're going to meet all of his demands, and then they're going to find the way to track him as best as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And if you had a giant like parachute thing like that, because I think civilian parachutes, you can just kind of ball them up probably and shove them somewhere.
I'm just imagining the parachuters that landed on the building next to us back when we lived downtown.
Oh my gosh, that was. Have we ever talked about that on the show?
Not that I know of, but
oh my gosh,
when we lived downtown, one night Logan and I were sitting, I think we were just watching TV or something. We look out the window and there's literally like, what was it, 2 parachuters jumping onto the building
I think it was like 3 dudes,
We were like, what the actual heck?
They were jumping off like our skyscrapers in downtown into parking lots. It was crazy.
I was like scared. I was like, what is actually happening? I think I got it on my TikTok. I think I have one of the videos.
I think I have one of the videos too. And it like they got down and they immediately got in their truck and like drove off so they didn't get like caught in trouble by police.
But I'm like, where did they jump from?
I think they
off
jumped
a different building. What?
I don't know how many people who listen to us are from Pittsburgh, but I think they jumped from either the UPMC building or the B&Y Mellon building, which are like one of our like 2 of our like our biggest buildings. I have theories about that.
You got theories.
My theory is that one of the guys who worked there is a UPMC or B&Y Mellon employee.
We're about to get
and he has a
fired.
card that gets him up to the rooftop. And he brought his friends and they parachuted.
That's big brain.
Which is so dangerous. They could have also slammed into another skyscraper.
Yeah, or just not landed on the building, or they could have landed too quick and like broke their body.
Yeah.
Or like landed on the edge of that building.
Because remember, he almost hit that one apartment building too.
Yeah.
We were like...
I'm just imagining, what if they would have landed on the edge of that? It was a parking garage. What if they would have landed on the edge of the parking garage and it like went, like their parachute was out and they just landed and
They were
the
testing it.
Horrifying.
Preface this too. This was summer of 2020, so like quarantine time, like where we...
It was when we were in lockdown, I'm pretty sure. So it's like...
Yeah, we had like another lockdown in the summer. Yeah. It was wild.
Weird stuff.
And I think that's why they did it. Because I feel like they were like, if we're going to parachute in the city, this is the only time we'll ever have this opportunity.
Because there's no one here. Like, it was a whole desert down there. There was no one.
If the Pittsburgh parachuters are listening to this right now, please contact us. Please. I won't out y'all.
They're gonna come after us.
I'm just curious.
I said that I have it on video. They're gonna like track me down. I don't have it on video, wink wink.
Like a parachute mafia, like a skydiving troupe.
They're gonna come after us because we just called them out and we have it on video.
They're landing from the sky like right now.
They said, "What'd you say?" I'm coming for you. But yeah, maybe they were all just D.B. Millers. That's his name.
Oh my gosh.
Suspected name.
Possible.
But yeah, let's keep on tracking.
All right, so we're now going to go into the passengers being released. So at approximately 5:24 PST, Captain Scott was informed that the parachutes had all arrived at the airport and notified Cooper that they would be landing soon. The aircraft landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport at 5:46 PST. Scott asked Cooper's permission to park the aircraft away from the main terminal in a partially lit runway, and Cooper agreed. One of Cooper's demands had been that only one representative of the airline would be allowed to approach the plane with his items, and also that the only entrance and exit to the aircraft would be from the front doorway via mobile air stars. So this is how he stopped like anyone from trying to like bust him like military force or like anything like that. Like this is how he was like, these are the instructions of how you have to get inside here or it's a wrap.
Yeah.
As instructed by Cooper and with the passengers still remaining in their seats, Mucklow went to retrieve the ransom money, exiting the plane via front door once the mobile stairway had been attached. Because of this awkward arrangement, she was forced to carry the large money bag from the front of the plane in full view of the passengers.
Stop it.
To
like,
Cooper sitting in the rear. So she just has this giant knapsack of $200 grand.
So they're suspicious. They have to be by now.
They gotta be. You're gonna know that's cash. Because also a knapsack's like such a popular thing in film and media that like that is money in there.
Like that's so cheesy. Also, I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. but I don't know if planes back then had like that section in the front of a plane where like the stewardess sits
Mm-hmm.
that's not with the people.
Yeah.
So the fact that she's sitting with a civilian, like a normal
Yeah.
person, I feel like they're gonna be weirded out, right?
No,
Like,
exactly. This is so random, but I feel like that was just such a heavy, big knapsack. And
yeah.
imagine she's just trying to get by these people, and it's so
Oh,
awkward. She
pardon me.
probably like hit a couple of them in the head, like, sorry, ooh, sorry,
Oops,
oof,
my bad.
sorry.
She's like shaking. She's so scared, and she just has this huge bag of money.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy to think about. Like, you're gonna think something is up completely.
Yeah, I'd be suspicious.
So with the money in hand, Cooper finally agreed to release the passengers. As
Mm-hmm.
Cooper inspected his money and the passengers were unloading, Mucklow attempted to break the tension and jokingly asked Cooper if she could have some of the money.
Stop it. She plays too much.
He readily agreed and handed her a packet of bills.
Oh my god, get that money, girl.
She said, I got my Christmas bonus early this year.
She said, I'm gonna pay off some of those student loans. Thank God.
She, honestly, if I was in a situation like that and like I was playing buddy buddy with him, I'd be like,
why not? Like, you
hey.
want to split this? I can help you.
Yeah, like, hey,
At this
can
point.
like, what if that was like a tip for her work?
Mm-hmm.
Like, go ahead.
She went through a lot. That's gonna pay for her therapy after this. Come on.
She probably had to return it.
Stop. I would be like, he didn't give me nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Play dumb. I would.
So, so sadly, she immediately returned it to him.
No.
And explained to him that it was against company policy to accept tips.
Why?
You could have just pocketed, like, my girl.
It's not a tip. Shh.
Yeah.
They probably don't have stuff on that plane. Once
it's fine.
Surveillance. At this point, they don't got it.
If he's going this far, she could quit her job and like.
Yeah. Get that money, get some therapy, and quit your job.
She would also later tell FBI agents that Cooper had tried to tip her and the other two flight attendants earlier in the flight with the money from his own pocket, but they had
Ooh.
also declined, citing the company policy. So this guy already had like money on him and was like, right?
Man.
Alright, so the refueling process was delayed. A second and later a third truck were brought to complete the refueling because they had to circle the air for so long.
Yeah.
They had to like refuel the entire thing.
Oh.
So the FAA official requested a face-to-face meeting with Cooper aboard the aircraft, which he denied. Cooper grew impatient, saying, "This shouldn't take so long, and let's get this show on the road."
He's a theater guy.
He likes to go to... Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
This is a
So
very
crazy.
theatrical thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a theater kid thing.
He makes props for a living, and he made
He made the bomb.
the fake bomb.
He was like, I learned that in theater school, baby.
Well, not at theater school.
Cooper outlined his flight plan to the cockpit crew, a southeast course towards Mexico City, at the minimum airspeed possible without stalling the aircraft. Approximately 100 knots, at a maximum 10,000 feet altitude. He further specified that the landing gear remained deployed in the takeoff landing position. The wing flaps be lowered 15 degrees, and the cabin remain unpressurized. First Officer William J. Radizak, that's a great name, Radizak? Radizak. Informed Cooper that the aircraft's range was limited to approximately 1,000 miles under the specified flight configuration, which meant that a second refueling would be necessary before entering Mexico.
Oh, man.
Cooper and the crew discussed options and agreed on the Reno Tahoe International Airport as the refueling stop. Cooper further directed that the aircraft take off with the rear exit door open. So Northwest's home office objected on grounds that it was unsafe to take off with aft staircase deployed. Cooper countered that and that it was indeed safe, but he would not argue at that point. He would lower it once they were airborne. So he wanted the stairs lowered.
Why is he like arguing as if he knows anything really about the plane and the safety? He's like,
Yeah, so this is why this leads to like other theories. I don't know if you picked up on all these like demands of what to do when they get in the air. He's trying to figure out how to parachute out of this plane the safest way possible. He's like, be at the absolute minimum in the air, like be the lowest to the ground possible, and do this and that.
I want to know how they can open the door without like depressurizing the cabin. How does that even work? You're opening up the side to let him jump out.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what?
It's a little bit for me to like understand too. It's like a lot to bring in, but like,
Maybe because they're at the minimum height, then
mm-hmm.
the pressure wouldn't be as bad. I just don't
Yeah, it
understand any of
definitely has
that.
to do with like the pressures there, and I think he wanted to be under pressurized, so like, when he jumped, it wouldn't be like super crazy too.
Yeah.
Like, but it's also it's just like a crazy thing he's asking for. He must have known someone
Yeah.
that like gave him these tips. Like Google wasn't a thing yet. Where'd he
Yeah.
find this information
But also,
from?
I didn't even know you can jump out of commercial planes. So, like, wouldn't it just be like the scene from The Incredibles where like all the people with capes get sucked into like the propeller
Mm-hmm.
thingies? Like, is that safe to jump out of a commercial plane? It
Um,
can't be. It's so big. Like, wouldn't you get
they
sucked?
definitely have safety measures put in place if there's like an emergency landing or anything.
Yeah.
Like, because people, like, I don't know if they're planning on making passengers parachute or not, but they definitely have like emergency landings. Like, you see when planes crash, like in the water safely, usually they have
Mm-hmm.
like the
The little
slide
boats.
and the
Yeah.
boats, and there's ways to do it. So I'm sure they have some of these precautions in
How to jump
place.
out. I'm just like, that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. But okay.
All right, so this is the last part of like the overall arcing
Ooh. Okay.
of what he did. So at approximately 7:40 p.m., the Boeing 727 took off with only Cooper, Mucklow, Captain Scott, First Officer Radizak, and
Razak.
Flight Engineer Harold E. Anderson on board. So there's about like 5 people only on the plane.
Okay.
Um, the two F-106 fighter aircraft from McCord AFB followed behind the airline, one above it and one below it, out of Cooper's view. So they had
Oh,
no
that's
idea that this
smart.
plane was following, which is very smart.
Mm-hmm.
A Lockheed T-33 trainer diverted from an unrelated Air National Guard mission also shadowed the 727 before running low on fuel and turning back towards the state lines of California and Oregon. So it sounds like a lot of people were like, we need to keep an eye on this guy. How
Mm-hmm.
do we do it? So they're in the air.
Ooh.
Cooper picked up his briefcase and told Mucklow to join the rest of the crew in the cockpit and remain there with the curtain closed. As she complied, Mucklow observed Cooper trying something. Oh no, tying something.
Okay.
Possibly the money bag around his waist. At approximately 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that basically the door had opened and
Mm.
activated. The pilots asked on the cabin intercom if Cooper needed assistance. Cooper picked up the cabin phone and replied, "No."
He's bold to jump at night, 8 p.m. Depending on where he's
Yeah.
at, it's gonna be dark. I'm
Oh,
like, you're
absolutely. And
gonna,
it's like Thanksgiving too. So it's
yeah, it's
like it is
cold.
night time.
He's
It
gonna
is
be jumping in the
night.
dark. You're gonna jump into a tree. You can't see nothing.
This was the last message heard from Cooper,
The
period.
no,
No, yeah.
no.
So the crew soon noticed a subjective change of air pressure, indicating that the off door was open. At
Mm.
approximately 8:13, the aircraft's tail section sustained a sudden upward movement,
Oh.
large enough to require trimming to bring the plane to level flight, meaning someone went whoop. At some point between 10 p.m. and 11:30, the 727 landed with the aft air stair still deployed. So that whole loading dock was still open with the stairs, everything.
Hmm.
At the Reno Tahoe International Airport, FBI agents, state troopers, sheriffs, deputies, and Reno police were on hand, although they did not approach the plane in case the bomb was still aboard. Captain Scott confirmed that Cooper was no longer on board, and an
Oh.
FBI bomb squad reported the cabin was clean after a 30-minute sweep, which means
Mm.
that he made it out with the money, the
Mhm.
paper bag, and the bomb.
Oh gosh, that's crazy. What if they made it up?
They made it. There was literally like 80 people on here, and it's like a
Mhm.
group hysteria project.
Or like it was someone working with. Stop. What if it was someone who worked for the what is it? The
Can you
flight people,
imagine?
the airplane company,
Oh
trying to
my
get their
god.
money. It
That's
makes
like
sense.
quite a possibility. So yeah,
Mm.
that's kind of the overall hijacking from start to finish. I know that was a
Okay.
lot to take in, but this was like
No,
a master kind of
that's
strategy.
crazy.
Um And he basically was just never heard from again after that.
Did the people who were below the plane, like beside it or whatever, not follow him when he landed?
What's that?
Remember there was the two other planes following them? Did the other one not follow him when he jumped?
You can't really like follow them because it's like where would they land?
Yeah,
You
or like
know,
have an understanding of where he landed and where he
mm-hmm.
could have gone from
Like
where he
finding
landed.
that location.
Yeah, because he
Mm-hmm.
had to have gone somewhere, or they should have
Yeah.
had people on land, like waiting for him to land. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Oh,
Strange.
absolutely, they should have.
It was a different time.
Yeah, basically.
Mm.
Um, okay, so that was a lot to take in. So I'm going to kind of give slight summaries of some information that I know, instead of going through like a whole script momentum as well.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things I want to bring up is that when the investigation started, they have you seen the iconic picture of like what they like made him look
Oh,
like?
the black and white image
Mm-hmm.
thing. I want to see
I'm
it
gonna
again though.
show you as well, but that's the picture with like the
Oh,
sunglasses and a picture of him without it, possibly.
he's scary.
Um, this is gonna be the picture for the episode, so everyone's
Ooh,
gonna know what I'm talking about
they'll
there.
see it.
Um, but yeah, that's like one of the one of the most like iconic sketches, and people say this is like the second most weirdest disappearance, iconic disappearance that's ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
With Amelia Earhart being number one. It's like Amelia
Wow.
Earhart then D.B. Cooper
Wow,
for
he's
a lot
up
of
there.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, this is like the second most well known disappearance case.
That's crazy.
So there are a lot of theories that go into it. People were like, they think that when he jumped, he
Mm-hmm.
died. People were like, he doesn't know how to use a parachute, because one of the things was that the two back parachutes he got were
Mm-hmm.
training parachutes, and which means they
Oh.
were closed, like you couldn't open them. So
Oh.
he technically only had two parachutes instead of four. But
Mm.
there's like a lot of people who kind of aren't into that theory
Mm-hmm.
because there was no body found. If they, because they searched that surrounding
Did
area.
they check in the trees? That's a real question.
Gee, I wonder if they checked in the trees. I have no idea.
It was the 70s. They probably didn't.
um, but there are some things worth mentioning. Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia?
Some physical evidence worth mentioning. That
Okay.
there were three major pieces found, which were a black clip-on tie, a mother of pearl tie clip, and an 8 filter tipped Rayleigh cigarette butt.
Cigarette.
Yeah, so those are like three items that a lot of people talked about. So they found in the tie something very, very peculiar.
Inside the tie?
Inside the tie.
Oh, okay.
What they found on the tie was three different particles that was like a unique metal alloy
Mm.
um that was used in these particles that could tie the skyjacker to a company with connections to Boeing,
Okay.
right?
So they got
So
connections.
people believe that he worked for Boeing in the aerospace like company.
Wow.
But people were quick to be like, it was obvious that he didn't work on the front lines of it, like building the aircraft
Yeah,
things.
because he would have known more.
Mm-hmm. Because also he wouldn't be wearing a tie, because wearing a tie is like a safety precaution. So people believe
Mm-hmm.
he was a manager or like a like lead position role that was there. Like they found
Oh.
like aluminum, I think, in the tie and like other particles. It was just
Wow.
very like, there is no way these would be on your tie unless you were working for this company or like in those spaces.
Now, do you think this guy went back to his normal job after this? Or do you think he went to
Absolutely
go live
not.
a new life?
No, he had a
If
new
he
life.
lived.
He was in like Mexico. He like jumped from Mexico City.
That's
So
fair.
he was long
He's
gone.
like, how are they gonna find me?
Um yeah, so that's a part of it. And then they also on February 10th, 1980, 8-year-old Brian Ingram was vacationing with his family in the Columbia River at the beachfront
Mm-hmm.
known as Tina or Tenna Bar, about 9 miles downstream from Vancouver, Washington, in southwest of Ariel. He uncovered 3 packets of ransom cash totaling for about $5,800. As he
Oh.
raked the sandy riverbank to build a campfire, the bills had disintegrated from lengthy exposure to the elements, but were still
No.
bundled in rubber bands. FBI technicians confirmed that the money was indeed a portion of the original ransom. Two
Stop.
packets of $120 bills each and a third packet of 90, all arranged in the same order when it was given to Cooper. So
Wow.
this is where it gets like even more wild. People believe that like there's theories that he either jumped, survived, and
Mm-hmm.
went all the way back to like his home state and was like living there again.
Oh, okay.
Other theories say, which this would really suck for him,
Yeah.
is that when he jumped, he survived, but because of the air span, the money bag fell off.
I was thinking that. I was like, what if his money flew off?
And the money just went
Yeah.
everywhere.
Or the string came loose and all of it flew.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Which is just like wild to think about. Like that, if that were to happen to him, he's garbage for doing this, but also at the same time, like that would be so sad. Like you went through all this, you're jumping.
That. My gosh. Also, going off that little kid like finding this money and just disintegrating, I feel like that's such a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, look at this money I found. Wait, it's not even
Mm-hmm.
it barely exists anymore. But it's crazy that it stayed there for that long. Cuz what year was this, in the 70s, like when he jumped?
Mm-hmm.
And then the 80s was when that little boy found it. I'm like, it survived that long.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. All right, so last thing I want to talk about, since I kind of gave like a vague idea of like theories of like where he was, but a lot of people seem to think because the body wasn't found that he survived.
Okay.
So there's a few suspects people believe were him.
Okay.
So we're gonna go through. There's only like 3 people I think on here.
Yeah.
All right, on to the suspects. So first we have Robert Rackstraw. So in D.B. Cooper, Where Are You? Sounds like a Scooby-Doo.
Wait, is that on HBO? I almost watched it if it is.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Robert Rackstraw becomes one of the most prominent suspects to both the production team of that show and the investigative case. His history is a bit blurred, but it's been confirmed that he had served as an army pilot like profilers believed Cooper was. He also had previous connections to the CIA, but was discharged from the army in 1971. The same year this happened, in the same year he said, I have a grudge.
That's a little suspicious.
And it was 5 months before the hijacking took place as well.
Oh, so he had time to plan it too.
He had some time. So he passed away in 2019, but during his life had been charged with fraud and had attempted to steal a plane before. When that plane was discovered, he had made attempts to fake his own death.
Stop. No, this definitely has to be this guy, right? What?
It's a lot of things are pointing towards him.
Too specific.
Robert, I'm sorry, but you got a lot stacked against you, buddy. While he was eliminated from official investigations in 1979, Rackstraw became the central suspect of sleuth Thomas J. Colbert and Tom Zolis, who later wrote a book identifying him as D.B. Cooper in 2016 titled The LaMaster Outlaw. Rackstraw later went on record to say that investigation had cost him his job. Upon presentation of a photo of Rackstraw, the air stewardess who had close interactions with Cooper said they had the wrong guy.
Okay.
He was also much younger then, approximately 40 years old that they were describing. Despite being hounded by sleuths who had pinned him as most likely D.B. Cooper's suspect, and even being offered $20,000 up front if he admitted it, Rackstraw went to his grave denying that he was the famed skyjacker. So yeah, he went to his grave being like, it was not me.
I believe that. You know, he had me at first, but if the stewardess literally said no, and he's younger than he was supposed to be, then like there's no way.
It's also just like crazy to think like they wanted him to confess and they were going to give him money to do so. Like, we will pay you if you confess for this. And it's like, they
sounded desperate, but I'm like, wouldn't he have just gone to prison or something? If he did confess and get the money in prison? Like, what?
One thing I wanted to mention, I don't know the exact term of it, but this case also, I found this very interesting. This case is under a certain law where there's no statute of limitations on it. So,
Really?
yeah. So if they ever catch him, they can charge him. So he has to be on the
Whoa.
run for like the rest of his life, basically, if he is still with us.
That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense. Like a crazy crime like that, like
Mm-hmm. I forget like what the exact name of it was. I'd have to look later, but
isn't it
that's
something with the double like you can't be charged twice? That's like the
I
original
think there was
thing.
something he did that fell under the statute of limitations, but I think there was something else he did like when on the plane that made it so like there was a loophole where they could charge him for life. Like it could be like
Okay.
there's no way you can get around this.
Okay.
So the
Hmm.
next suspect we have here is Richard McCoy,
Richard
which a lot of people
McCoy.
talk about. Um,
Okay.
so Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. is arguably the suspect who looks the most like the police sketch and has also had a history of plane jacking.
Okay. All
Great,
these
just people
people
with track records just getting on planes and
doing crazy stuff.
jacking them.
Yep, they're jacking the planes.
5 months after the D.B. Cooper incident, McCoy attempted a similar stunt on a flight between Newark, New Jersey, and Los Angeles, California, with a
Mm.
stopover in Denver, Colorado. The major differences was this time was that he had a hand grenade instead of a briefcase, and he demanded a higher sum of 500K.
Huh.
He was caught, and in a raid in his home, official FBI records state they found skydiving equipment, an electronic typewriter, which is
Oh.
important because if you think about the letter being in
Betty.
all caps,
Mm-hmm. Gotta type it
could that have been
all.
used? Um,
Ooh.
which they also looked back, it would have matched the impressions of the typed instructions he used.
Come on.
And they also found $499,970. So they found short of $30 short of 500 grand in his house.
That's so much money.
I
Oh
just
my
love that he
gosh.
took 30 out. Maybe he went to
Just
dinner.
30? Sir, you have all that money.
In June 1973, McCoy was convicted of aircraft piracy despite his pleas of innocence. He was given a 45-year sentence. His appeal was denied in September of that year as well. In an ever-going line of cursed D.B. Cooper suspects, McCoy tragically passed away with a shootout with police after he escaped jail in 1974.
Hmm.
However, he passed never claiming to be D.B. Cooper, so he took it to the grave, denying that it was not
Wow.
me.
I don't know. He could be. I feel like a lot of people like that lie and say they're not. Because what if he would
Mm-hmm.
have lived and then he just like gave himself up like that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He seems a little too specific to me.
Mm-hmm. And we're on to the third one. This is
Great.
Duane Weber. In 1995, Duane. In
Dwayne.
1995, Duane Weber announced on his deathbed, "I'm Dan Cooper."
Oh my.
The real name used by the Skyjacker. The alias D.B. Cooper was used by mistake by reporters in the immediate aftermath of the heist and stuck ever since. Because if you remember, when he got on the plane, he said, "I'm Dan Cooper." Like,
Yeah.
they just named him D.B. Cooper. It was like a mistake.
Nickname. Mm-hmm.
But because of this, his wife Jo didn't make the connection until months later. Following the discovery, certain other pieces of information, like a long held knee injury he claimed that was from a plane jump, started to make
Okay.
sense to her.
Hmm.
Weber also physically matched the composite drawing made by the FBI. However, there has been no major evidence to corroborate this claim, and despite the discovery of a hidden criminal past, nothing but circumstance and the confession attaches Weber to Cooper.
Huh.
So they're not completely sure.
Does he got lots of money? That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for.
So this is Sheridan Peterson. Sheridan Peterson died at the age of 94 in January 2021, never having confessed to being D.B. Cooper, but often noting that the FBI had good reason to suspect him. Due to numerous coincidental circumstances, he also seemed to enjoy the notoriety, appearing in interviews on the case for TV documentaries whenever he was asked. So he loved the
Weird.
idea of being like a celebrity and being like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yep, it's me."
A little
Um,
weird.
his past history in the Marine Corps and work with airplane manufacturer Boeing made investigator Eric Ulis 98% convinced it was him.
Hmm.
Peterson even appeared in a demonstration leaflet for skydiving for Boeing in a similar outfit later used by D.B. Cooper.
Weird.
In a different turn to the other alleged suspects, Peterson lived in an unassuming life but made no secret of his love of adrenaline-filled adventures, even being a practiced smoke jumper, a specialist firefighter who is sent into situations via parachute. This would explain his ability to survive the less than ideal jumping weather at the time of the Cooper incident.
Okay.
According to Ulis, Peterson was someone who deeply cared for those less fortunate, aiding in establishing freedom schools in the South during the Civil Rights Movement, and assisting refugees during the Vietnam War.
Wow, so he's got some good in him.
Which is what we were kind of talking about, how, like, Schaffner said the thing, it was like, he was so nice to me, like, I didn't...
he wanted to give me, he could give me money.
Yeah. In a statement to the Oregon Live following Peterson's death, Eula said, "Whether Sheridan Peterson was D.B. Cooper or not, may suggest that he more than atoned for his life's failings."
Wow.
Basically saying, even if it was him, didn't he make up for it?
Yeah.
So those are the suspects. We've talked about the theories, and we have come to the, not even, I don't think even the tip of the iceberg. We hit, like, we're like the smallest tip of everything. Tip of it. So what do you think suspect-wise? What are you thinking overall?
A lot of the theories sounded very, like, not theories, a lot of the suspects sound like they all could have did it, but I feel like I'm really leaning towards number 2. Okay. Even though he went to his grave saying that...
Robert Rackstraw?
Yeah, that he went to the grave saying he didn't. But I feel like you could easily do it. There's serial killers who still say they didn't, and there's, like, actual evidence pointing to them.
Yeah.
Like, he's totally possible. It seems like a very good match. And then the last one, I would hope that it's him, just because I would hope that... Yeah. If someone were to do something this bad, they can at least... Like, I'm not saying you can do great stuff to redeem a terrible, terrible thing you've done. Yeah. Like, that's a no. But, I don't know. Something like this, like, I'd hope that... I don't know. It warms my heart to know that something good came out of something so bad. Yeah. But also, no one died, so...
Well, yeah, I think that's what we talked about in the Great Train Robbery. We were like, no one died.
No one died. So, like, who did he... I mean,
all he did was in theory, all he did was just, like, commit a criminal crime on America.
Honestly, take down some big corporations, God forbid. But I don't do it on a plane. Don't, like... Yeah. I feel like it was more, like, he shouldn't have put that kind of fear in people on a plane. Like,
that's the shortcoming I have with him.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe if it was a big business, you did something crazy. Not saying go and do stuff like that, guys. We don't do that. But... I like that this person did good in their life.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I think it's very funny, though, that he was very much like, yep, it's me. And the FBI was like, I can't disprove it, but, like, what do we do? Because they couldn't fully prove it to convict him. So it's like, what do you do? My 2... I agree with Sheridan Peterson. I think that's, like, a very interesting one. I think it's, like, a little weird if he would like to come clean about all of that and, like, being so like ready to be, like, on camera.
Be a celebrity.
It just seems like a big character jump from the original
last
Dan
one as
Cooper.
Well, right?
That's the last one.
Yeah.
And then I also do think, wild enough, I think the Duane Weber one is pretty good. The one who died on his deathbed saying, I'm Dan Cooper. Because I know that's a wild thing to say before death. He could have been joking. He could have not been him at all. But I think it's just weird. Such a weird thing to say. And I feel like if you would have committed an act like that, you would have wanted to be as under the radar as possible. Yeah. And what's more under the radar than living a mundane life?
Yeah, well, honestly, he's not going to be able to get tracked down if, like, he's only spending small amounts of money.
Exactly.
But couldn't he have spent a little bit more? Like, if you're going to have that much money, like...
Well, he probably put it away. Like, he promised his wife, like, probably, like, a very comfortable life and, like, a living style. You also got to think, I don't know how much $200K would really get you if you're dropping in the middle of, like, Mexico and you need to go back. And then it's like, how much money did that cost? Like, finding living, food, clothes, like a whole new life.
A house is probably around $200,000 today in this day and age. Our student loans are probably a fourth of that, if not a little bit more.
So it's kind of just interesting to see, like, how much did that really go for him. I'd love to see, like, how those expenses went.
And if you're just paying off something, then I guess it won't look that suspicious, but you'll be able to, like, do everything else.
But it's also hard because they did find, like, the ransom money washed up in the water. So it's like, did he lose some of it or all of it? Or
maybe it was some.
I think he probably got away with a little bit of it because he had to survive somehow. Like, they never found a body.
Yeah.
Which is, like, one of the, like, I feel like they probably would have found it. Like,
or he's either in a tree somewhere, or one of those people is him.
Like, you didn't find parachutes, the body, or, like, anything like that. Like, he was alive and got away, in my opinion. I think he's not. I think he survived.
Yeah. I feel like he might have also had some sort of accomplice on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just feel like there's no way logically in my brain that there would not be people on that flight sending police to be down there when he landed. That doesn't sit right with me. I don't care that it was the 70s and they didn't do nothing right in the 70s in terms of, like, treating that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, he left with the bomb, though. So it's possible, like, if they would have, like, been with him, it would be like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do it. Like, I think it was such a tricky situation.
But even having people surrounding the general area where he was supposed to land, like, at a safe distance. So if he were to run in that area, they would have an eye on him in some direction. I'm just like,
there's definitely,
what's going through your brain?
This were to happen now, there would be a lot more precautions put in place to probably stop this from happening. But since this is the beginning of the 70s, as we've talked about before, this is a crazy time for some crazy crimes.
Yeah.
Crazy time, crazy crimes.
That should be a t-shirt. The 70s.
But yeah, so
wow.
I guess I guess the disappearance of D.B. Cooper will forever remain a mystery. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was a fun one. I had a good time. I like when we put our thinking caps on.
I like it too. And do you know what a nice patriotic send-off would be for all the people listening?
Uh-huh.
That little song that you were playing earlier.
No.
Can you please send off our friends with a nice little lullaby to lull them away into their sleepy time dreams? You gotta play it.
Oh my god. I'll play the last part. I'm not playing a full 2-minute
No, not the whole thing.
thing.
I would not ask that of you. Okay.
All right.
Goodbye, guys. Bye.
See you next week.
See you next week.